routine here. I always start the morning off by being aware of what planned economic data is coming out for the day. And you can see here on today, 30 minutes before the bell, we have three red folders. That means there's a potential for high impact of volatility on the market. You have core PCE, unemployment costs, and unemployment claims coming out at 8:30, and then lesser chance of causing volatility, but still reports coming out, personal income and personal spending. Then 15 minutes after the bell, you have Chicago PMI, and at 10:30, natural gas storage. And of course, don't forget, we're in the middle of earnings season, and this week in particular, Mag 7 names reporting big names. Good morning, Andy and Michael. Good to see you both. And good morning to all of you that are watching live, and of course, those that catch the replay. All right, so now once I know what economic data is planned for the day, I know that 30 minutes before the bell, I'm going to need to check my day trading charts just to see if the levels, my buy zones and sell zones, need to be adjusted. But for now, I'm going to set up my daily blueprints for the ES futures as well as the Nasdaq futures. Now, you can trade SPY, SPX, and ES futures off of this ES daily blueprint, as well as QQQ and NDX off of the NASDAQ blueprint. So the first thing I want to do, I typically use a 2-hour chart to set these buy and sell zones. But on the 2-hour chart, I don't have a clean candle formation. So I step down to a 1-hour chart, and you can see here, right here on ES, that big pullback yesterday when Powell was on the mic, that created a nice inside candle followed by a powerful candle up. So this will be my buy zone for today on ES. It has nice momentum out of the zone, and I like imbalance candles. So ES buy zone is found on the 1-hour chart here. After that, I want to go up and mark the new all-time high, 64.68. The next thing I think about here is, all right, there's a beautiful big round number up and above. So on a bullish trending day, that big round number is 6,500, right? We all, I'm guilty of this, setting my cells ahead of time at big round numbers. So we always need to be aware where those are at. And for ES, that would be 6,500. Of course, you have 64.75 because we go off quarters. That is about 7 points above the all time high. I'm not going to put it on the chart here. I will put the Fibonacci extensions from this move, though, up to the current all time high and just get those extension levels. And that 6,500 works out perfectly where I usually put a level between the 236 extension and the 38.2 extension. Next up, I'm going to mark this 618 here and then the 100. So now I have upside targets, not sell zones, because I have no supply when the market's at all-time high. Now, what I need to do next is I need to figure out where would be areas that say that the PMZ prints right here and the market moves below the PMZ. I need trim areas in here. I don't want to ride a position all the way from 64.50 down to 6400. It's just not how I prefer to trade. I like to scale in and scale out of trades. So the way that I'm going to find those trim targets is I'm going to run a Fibonacci retracement from the low yesterday up to the high that was created overnight. That's going to give me some Fibonacci levels. You can see the 236 and the 38.2. This is what we call the bull channel. On a trending day, you will typically see a nice bounce somewhere between the 23.6 and the 38.2. You can see also we do have an inside and up candle formation, but I'm not going to use this formation as my buy zone. And the reason why is the strength of the candle out of the zone. This candle very strong and this candle just a trickle up. So but I know that at 64.44 by 64.29, there is a possibility of a bounce in here. So I will keep that in mind as I'm trading today. Then the 50 to the 618 fib, another area that I would look for buyers to step in, 64.17 by 64.05. And of course, my buy zone. So in these zones here, the bull channel or the golden pocket, I like to wait for confirmation before getting in a trade and playing the bounce. All right. Yeah, so there isn't a lot more to do because I can't find a sell zone here, but I will adjust these levels if we make new all-time highs. I just adjust my Fibonacci's by activating the drawing, and as we make higher highs, these levels will go up as well. These serve as trim targets to the downside and also potential dip buys with confirmation. All right. So 30 minutes before the bell, we have that key economic data coming out. After that data publishes and we get the reaction, then I will go in and set liquidity chop levels. I'm going to show you real quick. We're going to pretend that that data has come out. These will not be the levels on my chart more than likely, but I want to show you how I find those. All right, I'm going to go to a 30-minute chart. I want to look at the pre-market session. So here in the pre-market session, I like to look for where's the high of the pre-market. It's obviously at the all-time high. I also like to look where is the low in the pre-market. And typically I'll go from about 2 a.m. over. And so the low right now is here at 64.51. So right now I would set this level as the bottom of the liquidity chop. And then I would use the all-time high as the top of the liquidity chop. I want to point out I do have an inside and down candle formation right here. So if I wanted to have a smaller chop level, I could use the high of that formation, giving us a 10-point liquidity chop. But as the market has been pretty choppy for most of the day, I know it looks like on this chart that we had a big old rally. Well, that rally occurred after the bell yesterday on the Meta and Microsoft earnings. So, really, it was a very choppy day for most of the day until Powell got on the mic and the market really drove down and went into a buy zone. So, this is how I would set the liquidity chop. But again, this could change according to how that pre market uh, data that's being released turns out. Now let's look at the Nasdaq and do the same thing. All right. I want to set my buy and sell zones. In this case, again, we will not have a sell zone because we're at all-time highs. So I'm just going to mark the all-time high there. And look, on the Nasdaq, you have that same nice, big, powerful formation. You got a monster Momo reversal arrow there. Lots to like in this zone. The upper weekly edge that has proven to be support all week as of today. And then your lower daily edge. I like this zone as my buy zone on NASDAQ. I'm going to do the same thing as far as finding trim targets or potential buy the dip areas down below where price is currently at. And then I will use those levels based on where price is at the PMZ after the bell. All right, so running those same Fibonacci retracements from the low yesterday to the all-time high. Here's the bull channel. Here's your inside and up formation, but it's really just a trickle up. Nothing like this imbalance candle. Okay, I'm more conservative with drawing my buy zones. Like I want to see this big reversal candle here. That shows strength and the potential that there's unfilled buy orders sitting down here. Good morning, Kim, Deepak, Paul, Mignon. Good morning to all of you. So here is the bull channel and where I would potentially look for a buy the dip opportunity, playing it back up to the PMZ once that prints. Here is also the 50 and 618 fib, what I call the golden pocket. Down here, same as the bull channel, I wait for confirmation of higher lows, inside candles, trendy turns, or Momo reversal arrows, and then take the trade from there. But this is my actual buy the dip zone on the NASDAQ today. Just like ES, right? We're at all-time highs. The first thing I want to consider is the psychological round number and put it on my chart. That would be 240,000, right? No, sorry, 24,000. Woo, I was talking Bitcoin numbers. 24,000 there, the big psychological value. All right, then I'm going to run Fibonacci extensions because I'm at all-time highs. I need those extension levels. Just like with ES, that round number is sticking out and it's inside the 236 and the 382 extension, which is where I was typically set my first extension target when at all-time highs. So that works out perfectly. So now I have some extension targets to the upside. If this is a bullish trending day, these are targets that I would look to trim long positions at. All right. And just like with ES, I will set a liquidity chop level on NASDAQ after that economic data comes out. But for right now, just to demonstrate how I would do that, we will look at the 30-minute chart, which is the time frame I go down to set these levels. I'm looking at the pre-market high, which is obviously the all-time high. I'm looking at the pre-market low, which is right back here. This would be the lower liquidity chop level. I'm just going to mark that on my chart. This is the liquidity chop zones represent where liquidity grabs could potentially occur. So if we look at this 30-minute inside and down candle formation, find the top of that, I could set this as a liquidity chop level to the upside, but really the liquidity chop or the pre-market high is all the way up here at all-time highs. But if I were not expecting chop, right? And the reason I'm expecting that is because that's what the market has proven to me over the last couple of weeks. It has been pretty choppy, especially in that first hour. All right, so This is how I set those liquidity chop levels. The purpose of setting those is that, especially in the first 15 to 30 minutes of the market, you will typically see stops ran on both sides. So, stopping out people down here, they will wick below and then immediately bounce, catching those liquidity grabs, and vice versa to the upside. So, just be aware that inside the liquidity chop level, you want to be long from the bottom and short from the top if you like to play those quick scalps. All right. Next, what I like to do, of course, is take a look at the overall bias in the market right now. And the overall bias is green, it's up. The Nasdaq is currently up about 57 and a half points, and the Nasdaq's up 302, and the S&P 500 is currently up about 57 points. That's bullish. So my bias is looking for the outperforming names. The Russell is lagging behind. Of course, the YM is also lagging behind as it is only up uh, a quarter of a percent, whereas the Nasdaq's up almost 1.5%. Big difference there, but with those big tech earning beats, I'm not surprised to see that. The way that I like to trade or determine a bullish trending day is if all three major indexes are moving in the same direction. That's when we will typically see a nice bullish trending day in the ES or a nice bearish trending day in the ES. Right now, YM is trying to keep up, at least stay green. I want to look at the important levels on YM to see uh, if we have support below where that support is at, and the possibility that YM could trend to the upside today. So it looks like yesterday we came down and tested this area. This is a pretty rounding bottom here on the weekly chart. So the daily and the 4 hours probably going to look the same here over the month of July. I marked this a few weeks ago as a potential flush low. The 9 EMAs caught up there. I've got a lot of support in this area on the Dow. And so I want to pay attention to 44,500, I'm going to call it, just to make it easy for me to remember. I want to see price stay above there in the Dow in order for us to potentially turn and have a nice trending day to the upside. If I look at the overall cycle of the Dow over the last few days, you can see that we've had 3 days down. So these filled candles close at the bottom. You down, down, and down, 3 days down. In a typical cycle, you'll see 2 to 3 days, whether it's up or down, and then a day or two of consolidation, followed by either a continuation move or a reversal. So, according to that philosophy, today and possibly tomorrow in the Dow could be consolidation days. All right. So, I also watch the Dow. I just don't share that chart every single day, but that's what I'm looking for here. 44,431 is the demand zone, and it was tested yesterday as well as on July 22nd. All right. All right. So now that I know my bias is to the upside according to the indexes being green, the next thing I want to do is go down to my watch list that has all the sectors that I'm watching. I have a marked percentage change on my watch list that lets me see what is green or red pre market and or even when the market's open, but I use it pre-market mainly. And I want to note the outperformers and the underperformers here. My bias is to the upside. So, in particular, what's outperforming XLK, no big surprise there. Obviously, the Qs, right? Then communications sector, no surprise there. Microsoft big earnings beat, Meta big earnings beat. Guess what? That's going to drive the XLK and the XLC up through the roof because those are both two highly concentrated names in those sectors. All right, so XLK, XLC, they are on fire. XLY, the consumer discretionary, is up about 0.42. Other than that, guys, gold is catching a big bid. Gold had a big pullback yesterday, so I might be interested in watching gold and see if it's came down into some higher time frame levels for me. So I'm going to jot gold down because potentially that's one that I might day trade and even use the PMZ to set up a swing trade in gold. So gold is up. Now, let's talk about the fact that even though the market feels super duper bullish, right? Look at the other sectors. Almost all of the other sectors are red. That's even semiconductors. But that's telling me that your strength is really in those tech type names and communications names. That's where we're seeing the plus 300 points in the Nasdaq in particular. So keep that in mind, and I will do the same as I go back to my watch list that I use for potential day trades. I want to focus on those tech names and communications names, looking at what is outperforming. Now, Amazon and Apple report today after the bell. The premium is going to be really jacked up on those option prices because of the volatility coming from the earnings report. Yeah, 103% here on Amazon. So your at the money options price with only 2 days to expiration is going to be much higher than what it typically would be. And actually, this would be the at the money price because Amazon closed at 2:30 yesterday. So this is way higher than what would be typical. Usually you'd see about $2, $2.50 at the money. This is way higher. Now, you can still day trade these names that are reporting earnings today, but keep in mind that unless you want to hold them through their earnings report, you would need to exit them before the end of the day. So, for me, though, Amazon, it's in a supply zone, and I just don't wanna mess with the inflated premiums. I trade with a $1,000 allocation per trade, and I wouldn't even be able to buy 2 contracts out of the PMZ. So that one is a no for me. Let's check out Apple. I'm gonna do the same thing on the options chain. It's got a little less implied vol there, 81%, but still, look, the at the money or near the money, these are still really inflated for what is typical. I could get a couple of Apple contracts at the money, but it's an ugly looking chart considering the overall strength in the market, and I'm just gonna stay away. The market is green and Apple is flat. So I'm gonna stay away from that one. Amazon, you can see, is really it caught a bid up 3%. So I'd say people are thinking Amazon's gonna have a good earnings report like Microsoft and Meta. That may not be the case. So please don't trade on that kind of thought process. You want to use the levels on the chart and base your trades on levels, not speculation. All right. So moving on down, remember semiconductor sector was red, yet Broadcom, Nvidia, TSM, AMD, these are all green on my chart. And so that tells me there was probably another name that trades in SMH that had a possibly earnings report or whatever, but that is bringing price down. So these are the names that make up that sector, and there's probably one of these in here that is driving price down. It's not really that important to me for my pre-market, so I don't need to investigate that, but just wanted to point that out. So if I look at AMD, for instance, that's up 2.25%, I want to look at my day trading plan for AMD and decide, do I have room, good reward to the upside or downside? For AMD, the buy zone, I could really move it up to 177.87 here. Yesterday, this was the zone, and it looks like we pulled back into there and a heck of a rally out. So that was a good buy zone yesterday on AMD. But now 177.87. So let's say that AMD goes below the PMZ. That would be the top of my target for a downside target. As far as an upside target on AMD, I know this says all-time high, but that's because AMD's sell zone was created a couple of years ago, and this only goes back a year. So the first initial resistance on AMD is 186.60. And then above there, you have a target zone of 190 to 203. So I do have about let's just say $7 to the upside. To the downside, I have about six. So pretty good, right? The daily ATR for AMD is about six. So AMD could be a possibility for me to day trade. So I'm going to write it down on my list, and then I'll narrow these down. AVGO. This week I've had a semiconductor stock each day on my chart for day trading. And I want to keep it like that because that sector is on fire and you get some nice price action there when it's very popular with traders. All right, so for AVGO, this is all time high. So I can draw some fib targets from this move and find where I would trim to the upside and potentially a high upside target, right? Up there at the 100% of this move. So if I look at this, and let's just say I created this as a zone, and that would be 310. So that's about $5 to the upside. As far as the downside goes, I got about $3.50 to the downside. And I promise you, AVGO's a daily ATR is going to top either one of those upsides or downsides. Then I want to look at Broadcom, and because it is Thursday, I would choose next Friday's expiration. So if I look at Broadcom at the monies, right, it closed at 302. They're just too expensive on this day, buying 9 days out. If I did just a 0 DTE on Broadcom, the at the monies, it closed at 302. So it's going to be some here where between 6 and $3. So let's just call it $4.50. I could buy a couple of contracts, but I can buy more of AMD because it's less expensive to trade. All right. So with that being said, AMD would probably make my list before Broadcom would. All right. Next up, I'm going to look at NVIDIA and just see where NVIDIA is trading and decide if it's going to be the semiconductor stock that I want to trade. So my buy zone on NVIDIA is down here at 178 to 175. That is about $5 below where price is at. Upside, the first initial is going to be the all-time high here at 185. If I want to find those extension targets above it, right? Because we make a new all-time high. And then I can draw extension targets there and just plot those levels just like I did with everything else that's at all-time highs. All right, but NVIDIA actually has an inside and down candle formation right after making that all-time high. We created an inside candle, got a Momo reversal arrow, and a down candle. So, whereas some of the others, I could actually look for these extension targets right here on NVIDIA, I need to consider my reward, that all-time high for now. So that's about $2.30 to the upside. Downside reward would give me about $5. Completely up to you how you decide if you want to use NVIDIA or if you would rather use one of the other names. Any of these are going to be plenty affordable for the account. I'm going to write NVIDIA down, and then last, I'm going to look at TSM here, Taiwan Semis. I had a potential swing trade on Taiwan Semis, but it didn't quite pull down to my zone. That is still marked down there. So Taiwan, this isn't one that I will trade because it's right at my sell zone, right? So yeah, you can play the targets inside of this zone. It's just not typically the easiest of the trades. So I will use AMD or NVIDIA. Now let's look at some of the other names that are outperforming. I mentioned gold. I've got that written down. Here's HIMS. HIMS is up 1.2% after having a great day yesterday. It's very close, very close to my sell zone. So in the instance of HIMS, because my bias is to the upside based on the indexes, my upside target is only $1 away. Downside, you could play, like, say the day ends up being bearish, I would take a look at HIMS and go, okay, where's price at right now in relationship to the PMZ? Because HIMS can move down very quickly. It can also move up very quickly. So HIMS is kind of on the back burner there. Hood, believe it or not, actually reported earnings yesterday, but no change. It went unchanged pretty much. I bet I'm already in this, so I'm not going to play it as a day trade. These are just consolidating the IWM part of the Russell. I want to take a look at JPM as a potential buy the dip. Oh, wow. Yeah. All right. My buy zone in on JPM would be down here at 296.66 by 295.05. It is weak, right? Weaker than the overall market, but I just want to pay attention to the financial sector, especially with market up at highs. This is important for the Dow, and for the Dow to play ball today to the upside. If the ES is going to trend up, JPM is going to have a lot to say about that. Okay. So JPM could be a possibility. The PMZ will print before the bell and I will have an idea, but I have about $2 downside potential, 2 to $3 there. Upside potential, not as much, about $1 to $3. So this probably isn't the best thing to watch out of the PMZ, but I am going to keep my eye on JPM and the financials. All right, up next, tech name that's moving and grooving is Oracle, and it's up a good over 1.5% this morning. I'm gonna look at my levels. Could I buy the dip in the bull channel or the golden pocket? Yes. So if we go below the PMZ, it pulls into one of these zones. I mean, Oracle's on fire right now. So any kind of dip buying opportunity I get for Oracle, even if it's just for a day trade, is worth it to me. So Oracle might make my list here. I do want to check though, just to see when they report, right? I don't want to get surprised by that, even though it's just a day trade. It's still important to know when something reports, and it has ages. So we're okay there. Let me look at this again. I like this bull channel here, especially if the PMZ were to print between 254 and 252, or the golden pocket down here at 251 by 250 would be another dip buy opportunity with the upper daily edge right there. This is my actual buy zone though. So, as far as extension targets go, because that is all-time high, I'm going to run those fibs like that. I'm going to mark some extension targets here. All right. And then I will figure a risk to reward. All right. So let's say that I trade this bull channel. That would be $1.70 approximately of risk. From here to reward would be about $3. If we hit extension targets, then obviously that's much higher, but I want to look at that first area of reward, and that would be about $3. So that isn't a bad risk to reward for me. Then down here, if I trade the golden pocket, you got a risk of about $1.40. And at that point, you would have lower trim targets because price would have pulled all the way back to here about $3 or $4. And I would run fibs and then trim at the 38.2 and the 618 on the way back up to 257. So if I run those fibs ahead of time, that's going to give me an idea of risk to reward. So that 38.2, which would be my first target, is going to be approximately $253. So you got about $1.72 to $2 of reward. You have about $1.40 of risk. This zone would be better to get a dip buy in and it hold, but you never know. I will jot Oracle down and then make my decision afterwards. Palantir has been on fire as well. As everyone knows, we have time to expiration. I'll just take a look at the day trading chart. This is an all-time high. A lot of topping wicks up in here. 160.87 by 161.84 would be my upside target. It's only got about $1 to the upside there. From the downside, from the buy zone, which would now be 157.22, you got a lot more reward playing it back up, but I'm not sure if we get that dip or not. Palantir, where price is at, doesn't give me the best risk to reward, although it could rocket through it. Speaking of rocket, let's look at Rocket Lab. All right, risk to reward perspectives on the PMZ, I typically would set a 50 cents to $1 risk, just so you know. I like this zone in here to buy the dip on Rocket Lab. That's 45.50 to 44.87. The reason I like it is you got a nice, powerful move out of this inside and then up candle formation, but it also lines up with the golden pocket on the move from yesterday's low to high. So I think Rocket Lab is going to make my list. Okay. Tesla is stuck. Tesla is stuck between a range, guys. That's just all I can say about that. Uh, it's trading in a range and yeah, it's down if anything. It's looking way more bearish than the overall market. I'm going to leave that alone unless I was looking for a swing trade. We've already looked at TSM. Now I'm going to check out gold. Okay. I told you for gold, if I'm watching it for a day trade today, it could also be setting up for a swing trade. So right now it's up quite a bit, right? It's going to be up about $4, $3.50 here. But in the event we get a sell off back down to 301, 302, that's definitely a place that I would look to potentially swing trade from. So once my PMZ pops up, I'm going to have a risk of 50 cents to a dollar because that's what I'm comfortable with. And I need to figure out what my reward would be. And it's going to be about a dollar. So if I do a 50-cent risk, that's a 2-for-1 reward. Not bad. I do need to mark this little topping wick right here just in case. I might need to trim at 305.14, but still, that's not a bad risk to reward as far as upside targets go. Right now, we're above the upper daily edge. What was resistance, we treat as support, but we're barely above it. Buyers are stepping in this bull channel here. Here's your golden pocket. That's the buy zone. So I'm going to use gold. All right, I'm going to use gold. I'm going to trade gold. I'm going to trade Nvidia, but I'm going to watch AMD also if I don't get a trade in Nvidia. And then I'm going to choose Rocket Lab. All right. So I won't know the PMZs until 5 minutes before the bell, but the concept is always the same. It's my favorite day trading indicator by far. Price goes above the PMZ, then I'm looking to go long and trimming at the levels on the chart on the way to my red zone above. If price goes below the PMZ, that's a trigger short, trimming at the levels below on the way to my green target zone below. That's the way I like to day trade. Because today is Thursday, I will choose next Friday's expirations on gold. If price comes down into here, I'm going to be looking at the August 15th expiration for a longer, 2 to 5, maybe longer day swing trade. All right. So that is my pre-market routine. I have narrowed it down to 3 names that I'll focus on for day trades, as well as trading SPX or SPY or QQQ using those ES and Nasdaq futures charts. I scalped quite a bit of SPX yesterday. Those trades aren't alerted because they're scalps. So just keep that in mind. But right now, I have some fibs drawn to where SPX price would be based on the ES's price right now. And the golden pocket is going to be at or near that 6,400 level that was working very well in the week until yesterday's down day. But we shall see if we get a pullback to this area. I'll use the ESPMZ, draw it on here in relationship to the SPX value. And then my bias stays the same. Price above, I'm looking to go long, and price below, I'm looking to go short. Once it opens up, I will take this gap up to where it opens at for Fibonacci extension targets because it is going to open at a new all-time high unless the market pukes on the economic data. All right, so that's how I'm going to have targets for SPX. Graham asked, do I ever play the PMZ pre-market? I don't, Graham. I'm not, well, I take it back. In my interactive broker account, I have played SPX pre-market. Yeah. But I don't trade ES and Nasdaq or really any futures pre-market. So I have not. I have traded it overnight before though. Thanks, Dad. But that was my breakfast. In case y'all wondering how well I eat, this is my, well, can you see it? Breakfast sandwich, sausage and egg sandwich. And my dad makes me each morning. He's a gem, I tell you. But anyway, so no, I really, I have, but I don't do it a lot. All right, guys, that's going to wrap it up for me. I'm going to eat my breakfast and just sit back, listen to some music, and relax. And I will see you in the trendy room and SPX room if you're a member. If not, you should subscribe. You should check it out because you can get a 30-day trial for only $7. Oh my goodness, sorry about that. So anyway, grab that $7 trial if you're not a member of the Trendy Room or SPX Room at Simpler Trading, and watch me trade live every day with my own money. All right, y'all have an awesome day, and I will see you in the next video.